250K? Who turning down 250K a month? What the fuck is going on in that relationship that 250K ain't enough?
What's up, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're about to dive into some real dark shit. I mean, this shit is real heavy, man. It's some things that people have been speculating for years now. When it comes to the relationship between Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie, for years I've been speculating that something was just off. You know, like just the vibe, just the way that they moved, the way that things were just kept on a certain type of level, like real hush hush. Sometimes you'll never see Cassie. She'll be completely gone sometimes, and it's like then she'll pop up out of nowhere with a song. And I just always thought that was really odd or strange. Now, we can get into the conversation about P. Diddy all day long and speculation swirling around him and his associations with different people that in the industry and how he may have been involved in a lot of people coming up missing or a lot of people dying from accidents. And honestly, I've always believed that that's exactly what was true. Now, let's think about it for a second. If you're a type of man who does not have morals and principles and you do not live by a standard that will come from a higher power, and you believe that you are truly the God on this planet because you have the money to be able to enforce this, what would that lead you to do? What sort of darkness would you venture off into? Now, I'm just going to welcome y'all to this conversation that goes way beyond the surface. So let's dive right into it.
Is the sheep preaching hate when he says, I'm not going to let the wolf eat me anymore? If the wolf comes in here, next time he comes in here, I'll do whatever I have to do to keep him off my back. Is the sheep violent or is the wolf the violent one? He wasn't teaching hate, he was teaching common sense. You know, somebody's knocking you over the head, stop him. Do whatever you have to do to stop him. You know, the ones that were knocking him over the head were afraid of the fact that he might swing back. So they said, no, he's teaching hate. He's violent.
Honestly, I didn't even really want to make this video. You ever felt like you were compelled by the Spirit?
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night.
Distractions all around me, disappear like a thief in the night.
Now, I'm sure y'all remember Cassie. Y'all heard about the story. Y'all heard what's going on and what's happening, how she's already filed for the lawsuit, and she's filed a federal lawsuit or federal petition against Sean Diddy Combs. One that she definitely was going to be able to win. She recounted the things that she endured to great detail. Now, when you enter into a case like this, where the victim can still recall things that happened in great detail, the chances of winning this particular case is very slim to none, y'all. Now, but we all remember Cassie as one of these breakout stars who made the song called Me and You way back in the day. That's when I was younger, and I was like, damn, she fine. There's never really been any real problems coming from Cassie or anything of that nature, just speculations that she may be being mistreated by Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. But of course, like I said, recently she dropped a bombshell. And I believe what they initially thought was going to be a $30 million lawsuit turned into a settlement of much more than just 30 mil. Some are speculating that Diddy had to pay out at least 100 M's. Now, the things that were said in this petition, this federal petition, was some real dark and some heavy stuff, y'all. We're talking accusations of sex trafficking, physical and abuse, and yeah, even physical abuse to the point to where it's memory loss. Now, I really do feel like we owe it to the people who've been through this type of thing to bring these type of situations to light, y'all. Whatever is done in the dark shall be brought to light. Now let's break this down like we breaking back layers of a complex rhyme. Cassie's legal team is bringing serious allegations to the table. They're not just seeking compensation, they're trying to make some noise just to be sure that Cassie would not have to suffer any type of mysterious death. I know that Cassie do fear for her life. I'm sure the smartest move that she could make is to open up this federal lawsuit. Not only did she open up as a federal petition, but she left room for prosecution to be able to come in and prosecute him for the things that she spoke about in this particular petition. And we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the petition and see what was said.
Oh, please be patient with me. I got on my Mother Goose glasses, okay? I read this whole 35-page indictment. I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud, but I am going to film it because I want y'all to be with me here while I read and get everything set up. All right, so we're going to take y'all back in time. In early fall 2007, Mr. Combs flexed his power and influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party hosted by Miss Ventura. This fake posting allowed Miss Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida to get away from her boyfriend by using it in the guise of a legitimate event that she had to attend. Miss Ventura was stunned at how easily Mr. Combs could recruit others to lie for him. Let me take a break real quick here, okay? The boyfriend that Diddy is, jealous of and feeling away, if y'all do not know, back in the day when Cassie first came into the game, she was dating Ryan Leslie. Ryan Leslie, I believe, was a part of Bad Boy at the time. That is low-key how they met. Ryan was introducing Cassie to Diddy. Diddy, fell in love with her. And we ain't heard or seen Ryan Leslie since. So this entire situation is crazy. When Diddy and Cassie broke up in 2018, if you remember, his name was trending. And a lot of people were going in. A lot of people were shocked, like, oh my gosh, I know Ryan Leslie's celebrating because Diddy's such an asshole. So I'm going to show you guys just some of the tweets from back then. This tweet says, Diddy really stole Cassie from Ryan Leslie, and we never heard from this nigga again. I don't need that type of heartbreak. Somebody else says she left the nigga that genuinely loved her, Ryan Leslie, to give 11 years of her life to someone who left her. So people were going in back then because, us 90s kids, we remember her relationship with Ryan Leslie. So Diddy was not a fan of their relationship and he wanted Cassie by any means necessary. So basically he created this whole promotional flyer for Cassie to host a quote-unquote party, but that was simply to get her away from her boyfriend. I'm going to go ahead and finish reading this to y'all. Then they go on to say that Ms. Ventura was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but because the request was to go to Miami was made by the owner of her record label, because she was scared to go against his wishes and face repercussions over her career, Miss Ventura agreed to join Mr. Combs in Florida. During this trip to Miami, Mr. Combs provided Ventura with a copious amount of drugs. She became more intoxicated than she ever had. Her intoxication lasted through the weekend trip. As she wanted Mr. Combs to continue to support her career, she could not refute when Mr. Combs was urging her to take more drugs. After providing her with drugs, Mr. Combs had sexual intercourse with Miss Ventura during this trip. Within 2 years of meeting Mr. Combs, Ms. Ventura found herself flirting to an immediate cycle with her boss and the owner of a record label and one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry. From the very start of the relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Ms. Ventura. This dynamic was fueled by their 20-year age difference. Because remember, when he first was taking her from Ryan Leslie, she was only 19 and Diddy was like 37 years old. Okay, so by this time, she's about 22 and he's in his early 40s. So now we're going to go on to page 13. This is where things get crazy. So they go on to say what started as a whirlwind celebrity meeting of drugs and alcohol-fueled parties have returned into frightening and violence. Miss Ventura also exposed the intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, on one occasion, when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed and retrieve multiple guns from his safe and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Ms. Ventura became terrified and began to cry. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Ms. Ventura hold Combs's gun in her purse. Ms. Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason as to why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent and dangerous. Over the next decade, multiple times a year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises all over her body. After every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including by hiding Miss Ventura in hotels for days at a time to let her bruises heal. Now that sounds like somebody else's story, and we'll get to that in a second, okay? In one instance, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade by kicking and hitting her. He forced her out of the vehicle on 5th Avenue in New York City. She was eventually able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing that there was no one else she could tell about what happened at the hands of an incredibly powerful man. She spent the subsequent 3 days hiding her apartment. In January 2009, Mr. Combs learned that Miss Ventura spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles and became enraged. She had hoped that speaking to this manager would allow her to further grow her career and Mr. Combs would be happy for her. But instead, he became extremely angry and pulled her out of the club where the party was taking place. Now, mind you, earlier in this reporting, he had signed her to a 10-album deal, okay? This is a woman who was not a great performer or singer, no shade, okay? There was a lot of controversy about her rise to fame back in the day, and he signed her to a 10-album deal, and that just shows me that he wanted power over her, because when would she ever be able to create 10 albums? She was barely able to create the one and hasn't really had any successful albums since then. So this was basically a slave contract. And she has not had a hit song since 2006. So at this time, it's 2009. It's been 3 years. And, you know, she's trying to make good for this contract that she signed with Diddy. And she's trying to get her music out there. I don't believe that he ever intended to make her a star. He just wanted to keep her as her sexual abuse victim. That's, you know, from reading this, that's what I think, and the fact that she never put out any more music after 2006.
Now, what Cassie is doing is shedding light on some of the darkest corners in Hollywood. And we all knew it was dark. I mean, but now everything is coming out and revealing itself, truthfully.
So then they go on to say, in leaving the club, Mr. Combs beat Ventura, pushed her into the corner of the vehicle, and was stomping on her face. Mr. Combs' security staff, Roger Bonds, tried to stop the beating, but was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, Ms. Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to kick her again in the face. Ms. Ventura was bleeding profusely and was then ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Upon recognizing the damage that had been done and the physical evidence of his abuse, Mr. Combs panicked and forced his staff to bring Miss Ventura to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for a week. During this stay, as her injuries from the beating healed, Miss Ventura began to fully realize that Mr. Combs' tremendously loyal network not only knew about and witnessed his assaults, but that also these witnesses were not willing to do anything meaningful to stop Mr. Combs' behavior. She recognized that she was powerless and that reporting Mr. Combs to the authority would not alter Mr. Combs' status or influence, but would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. Now we're going to get into the sex trafficking part. So then they go on to say, within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with the 45-year-old Mr. Combs, the 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in a fantasy that he called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Miss Ventura with another peen. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought him to his home in Los Angeles, the man Mr. Combs and Ventura wore a masquerade mask and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He masturbated while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific sexual acts. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangements a freak-off or a FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of the male sex worker. At certain points during Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on freak-offs weekly. Mr. Combs would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura that the practice was our thing and our secret. Freak-offs would often take place in hotel suites and include the Trump International Hotel in the Columbus Circle, hotels in Beverly Hills, the London Hotel in Los Angeles, the Intercontinental Century City, and the Intercontinental Atlanta and New York. So basically a bunch of hotels. Beverly Hills, the Miami Fontainebleau. This man was just basically, doing all these freaky parties at multiple hotels. On one occasion around 2023, Mr. Combs had a FO set up at the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Upon information and belief that Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice that was charged by the hotel. Miss Ventura was eventually instructed to use the website and escort services to find male sex workers to participate in FOs. Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura to search for large black penises on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male sex workers to his location, including to multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Miss Ventura and his staff to help him make these arrangements. Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up FOs, including by setting up hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. I don't know what Astroglide is, but I'm thinking it's some type of sex gel or lube or something, child. Who knows? Anyways, they go on to say Mr. Combs always supplied Miss Ventura and sex workers with copious amounts of drugs before and during the FOs. Miss Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during the FOs, which allowed her to have dissociation during these horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluids days after a FO to recover from the excessive substances pushed upon her. Miss Ventura was required to dress up in lingerie for an FO, and Mr. Combs insisted that she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the black men that he hired to have sex with her. During the FOs, Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil all over herself. Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura and the sex workers to speak to each other, and then would specifically tell Miss Ventura where to touch the sex workers. Mr. Combs would say things like, "Grab that big black dick," and ask her, "How does it feel?" as he directed her to perform for him. In addition to directing Miss Ventura, he treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos that he took, while Miss Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or video of the sex acts if they were taken on her phone. Mr. Combs repeatedly made it clear that he retained many of the videos of Miss Ventura during the FOs. Then they go on to say, frequently her anxiety before the FOs became so great that she would become physically ill, sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. She knew firsthand that telling Mr. Combs that she did not want to engage in the FOs would be met with anger and violence. In addition to any suggestion that Miss Ventura would refute the FOs or otherwise report Mr. Combs' abuse was met with ultimatums by Mr. Combs, who would say that Miss Ventura could not go to the police because she had a lot to lose. Around August 2015, for example, in the middle of a surprise birthday dinner for Miss Ventura's 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Miss Ventura leave the party and go to the hotel for an FO. When she expressed that she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura cornered by his security staff in order to force her to leave with him. After this FO, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura went back to the hotel room that Miss Ventura was staying in, where some of Miss Ventura's friends were allegedly hanging out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated and at one point during the night picked up one of Miss Ventura's friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor of the hotel suite. Miss Ventura and the friends were scared by Mr. Combs' erratic behavior, but Miss Ventura was heavily sedated because of the drugs that she took to participate in the FOs and therefore was unable to respond to Mr. Combs' terrifying behavior. So now here's the part about her and Kid Cudi. So during one of their freak-offs, Mr. Combs found Ventura's phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew in between his fingers and lunged at Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Miss Ventura that she needed to just talk to Mr. Combs, and even though Mr. Combs was enraged, feeling like she could not escape Mr. Combs and his network of enforcers, Miss Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times, then kicked her in the back when she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut where her mother took pictures of her bruises Mr. Combs had left on Ventura's body. In February of 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Miss Ventura was terrified as she began to fully comprehend that Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do those that he believed slighted him. In 2015, Miss Ventura spoke to a popular music manager at an after party in a hotel suite in Las Vegas. Mr. Combs saw her speaking to this manager and sternly told her to step into the bedroom adjoining the suite. Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura severely. She ran from corner to corner of the room, trying to avoid Mr. Combs beating and kicking her. When she tried to lock herself in the bathroom, he pushed through and punched and kicked her while she was curled up around the toilet. Her screams were drowned out by the loud music playing outside of the hotel suite. When Mr. Combs, head of security and assistants, saw Miss Ventura after the assault, they both began to cry. Miss Ventura had 2 black eyes, a busted and bruised lip, and a huge welt on her forehead. Upon seeing the results of this vicious attack, Mr. Combs immediately took steps to conceal his wrongdoing, forcing Miss Ventura to stay at his home in Holmby Hills along with one of his sons. While there, Mr. Combs FaceTimed Miss Ventura and stated, "You gotta go up, you gotta put more makeup on, my son can't see you like that." She did put the makeup on per Mr. Combs' demands. Miss Ventura felt like she had no choice but to obey her abuser. Even though the security guards, assistants, the friends saw the situation she was in, no one dared to help her or speak up on her behalf. She therefore had no choice but to remain subservient. So as you guys see, this situation is extremely disturbing. Now, what is very interesting is that this reminds me of what Kim Porter went through, allegedly, okay? And I've never really gone into too many details about Kim Porter and her alleged abuse with Diddy. But for all of us 90s kids, if you guys remember, you know, while Diddy was doing him and fucking around with J-Lo and, you know, being seen with her and acting like Kim didn't exist, Kim was tired of it and she started a relationship with Shakir Stewart. If you guys don't know, Shakir Stewart, was at one point in time, he was promoted to be an executive vice president of Def Jam Recordings. He was also a manager. He's the one who got Sierra signed to LaFace Record. He also helped sign Rick Ross and Young Jeezy. So a lot of people in the game really respected Shakir Stewart. So anyways, legend has it, right, allegedly, him and Kim were dating. And Diddy was really, really pissed off about this. So they were basically in Saint-Tropez. And they're saying that Diddy found out about her messing with Shakir Stewart. And he got pissed off. And he allegedly basically took her by the head and slammed her face into the table, which broke her nose. And I remember that going around the internet back in the day, because Kim's face, if you look at her nose does not look like how her nose used to look back in like the 90s and the 2000s. You can tell like something happened to her nose, and they're saying that it happened after her trip to Saint-Tropez with Diddy, and that Diddy broke her nose because she was messing with Shakira Stewart. And I don't blame her, because Diddy was messing with, you know, tons of women while he was supposed to be faithful to her.
In 2008, Shakira Stewart would replace Jay-Z as the executive vice president of Def Jam Records. Before he accepted the position, he had the contract for 2 weeks before he signed it. Upon signing, he reportedly told people close to him that he felt like he made a deal with the devil. Previous to this position, Shakira was responsible for signing Sierra while he was with LaFace Records, and Rick Ross and Young Jeezy while he was with Def Jam, before becoming executive vice president. Before his death, it's noted that this new position brought him a lot of stress, with the downturn in music sales not helping at all. Reportedly, L.A. Reid, the chairman of Island Def Jam at the time, had a 3-hour meeting with Shakira and would inform him that he no longer had his position. Before his death, Shakira is said to have been taking Ambien and was very paranoid about the feeling of people out to get him. Shakira would ultimately be found dead in his home after pulling the gun on himself. Was it because of the depression from his job, or was it the result of a messy love triangle? We may never truly know.
And what Sean Diddy Combs has done, Mr. Honeycombs, as Jaguar Wright likes to call him, he has settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, which some are speculating it was at least 100 M's. So you know for a fact that a lot of these allegations that she put in here was just the surface, was just scratching the surface, y'all. And we know for a fact that he's guilty of a lot of things that are placed in this petition, for the simple fact that he went ahead and settled out of court. And anybody who settles out of court knows they do not have an opportunity or shot to be able to succeed in trial. So now it's like, how many more men, how many more women, how many more people are being abused in this way in Hollywood? I mean, as many like to call it as Holly weird, but you know, of course they like to do certain things that are not very moral. Now, of course, there's a lot of speculations going around about Diddy and how he's handling situations, and how some of his past colleagues and people that he's dealt with and did business with has mysteriously passed away. We're going to take a look at what Jaguar Wright had to say about this whole thing. And I know that she had a lot of different things that she was correct on, and things that she spoke about years prior to Cassie coming out and speaking the truth in her petition. So we got to know that Jaguar Wright is somebody who speaks the truth and is speaking facts, because not only is she speaking these facts, but no one has come forth and tried to file a defamation suit against this woman. So all of these allegations and all these things that she's saying must be true and correct. I mean, I don't see a lie yet. No one else is pointing anything out. So she must be on to something. What I would like to do is just take a look at what she had to say about Sean Diddy Combs, or Mr. Honeycomb, as she like to call him. Now, y'all know that she has been spot on from day one, and nobody has filed a defamation suit. Like, come on now. Nobody has filed a defamation lawsuit against this woman, so she must really be speaking some facts about the industry.
Just because I know whose money the proceeds are going to, and fuck him. Fuck you royally, and fuck you for inventing Diddy. Fuck you for that. Fuck you for letting that out-of-control, whack-ass fucking whoremonger and sodomite just run rampant all over this goddamn fucking business. Fuck you for that. Like, Andre was different. Andre had class. Andre had some integrity. But no, you go to get the little Chucky doll. That fucker. I'm sorry, I'm a little upset about it. Because Al B. Shore just came out of his coma, and I've been talking to Al, and we've been texting back and forth, and I'm just glad that he's alive to text.
Oh, wow. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. But when you think about Kim, I was thinking to myself the other day, Uptown Records started with 5 people. Andre Harrell, Al B. Shore, Heavy D, and Puffy. And Kim was the longest working employee, because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead.
Of course he did.
Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and then the next thing...
The thing that I would love to see is that this whole thing comes down and collapse, because we need to get these people out of any position of power, because they're going to misuse and abuse the people who are coming to them, who want to just come up on their talents. They want to show forth what they got to offer to the world. They're going to misuse and abuse these for their own financial and sexual pleasures. And I believe that this is absolutely wrong. We know that people have been talking about this coming from like the Pizzagate scandals, things like that. You call them conspiracy theorists, but honestly, they just see what the truth and the facts for what it is, and they've been trying to reveal the truth to you for this amount of time, for so long now. And we got to remember that everything that glitters ain't gold. Now, another person that's been speaking about it, of course, you already know who it was, 50 Cent. And you know that somebody, of course, you know 50 ain't gonna stop and hold nobody up. He's gonna have everything to say about P. Diddy. He's been on his ass for years now.
That's why I don't be going to them puffy parties. They can hug you from the front and the back at the same time.
You know, it was difficult to navigate it for a little while, just because, you know, people automatically at this point now just don't associate me with music anymore all the time. But I do have a core group of fans that just ride or die, and they're just like, when is it coming? When is it coming?
50 Cent has some thoughts about Diddy's recent lawsuit settlement with Cassie, and he wasted no time roasting the bad boy head honcho. The G-Unit label head-turned-television producer took to Instagram on Friday, November 17th, to snark at the quickness of the settlement. In a now-deleted post, he seemed to imply that Diddy's problems were just beginning. LOL. He paid that money real quick. Should have done that before the sharks saw the blood in the water, and here they come in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, every woman he put his hand on, he wrote in the caption. Before this, 50 Cent, who has a long history of taking jabs at Diddy, took to Twitter on Thursday, November 16th, to seemingly take another swipe at the bad boy mogul. Damn, brother love, you out here looking crazy as a MF LMAO, he wrote, captioning a photo of himself peering into the camera.
And of course, they know, and everybody knows what type of man P. Diddy really truly is. And I don't care how he tries to refurbish or to clean up his image. It don't really matter. You still are, and you still did these foul and despicable things. A lot of redemption that you got to go through in order to make yourself work. You need to serve time for the things that you've done to Cassie and so many more. So many different artists that had come up under you and that had promising careers and futures, and you went and you crossed them and you betrayed them, and you took them for what they were worth and their value, and you robbed them of their intellectual property and their skill sets. There ain't no telling if you had any hands to play in Biggie or Tupac's death. But there's a lot of speculation that he had something to do with hiring the people to assassinate them both.
You want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Mm-hmm. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened to him? He must be the luckiest motherfucker because it seems like everybody that worked at Uptown Records from the very beginning is gone. Just him. I guess Al disappointed you. You know, I speak for a reason. When you see this bullshit ass motherfucking game fucking with people that you love, that you like, you know, it's too many coincidences.
Too many.
Fuck you, honeycomb.
Oh. Stamp it.
We gonna get you and your little dog too. And congratulations, young Miami. Run as fast as Cassie did. Has anybody asked themselves about that shit?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are asking about what's going on with it. They say it's goals. Yeah, a lot of people are looking at it as like that's the way the new relationship should work.
What, to get paid?
Yeah, basically.
She was getting $500K a month. She quit because he dropped her down.
Yeah, I think that's where they're at with it now.
No, but understand this. Think about this. And there are women in this room. Why would you quit? What the fuck is going on that $250,000 ain't enough?
Ladies?
Like, fuck the fact that he... I'm just saying, fuck the fact that he cut from 500 to 200. Who the fuck gives a shit? 200K? Who 250K? Who turning down 250K a month? What the fuck is going on in that relationship that 250K ain't enough?
Could see some things.
That ain't worth 250K. That's gotta be some dark shit. Like, people are not understanding that girl quit 250K. 4 million every quarter. Well, I'm sorry, $1 million every quarter.
Shit.
Now, she was getting 2 million a quarter, but then she got, you know, fuck you got going on. That's so deep that it ain't worth $1 million a quarter.
They told a story about Cassie one time, and she was saying someone had asked her why she cut her hair, and she was like, well, Diddy said he just liked it that way. And they said when she answered the question, it was like she was in a trance. Like, she was just like...
Cassie right here. The jumped off the bar, came over and said, yo, Cassie, tomorrow, I want you to shave the side of your head. I was like, you're not about to do that, are you? She said, well, I mean, whatever Sean wants, I'm going to do.
And she was saying someone had asked her why she cut her hair. And she was like, well, Diddy said he just liked it that way. And they said when she answered the question, it was like she was in a trance. Like, she was just like, I just don't know. Diddy just said he would like my hair this way. And they was like so in awe, like how she didn't even have a thought about it. It was just what he wanted.
That's how he operates. He has people followed. He has people watched. He does all kinds of fucking, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Too much money.
I feel bad for the kids. Like, don't think that there aren't moments when I'm speaking honestly about that motherfucker that I pray that his children don't hear it. Because that's still their dad. I know what it's like to have a baby with a fucked up ass motherfucker. As much as I can't stand my ex-husband, I would never want my son to feel bad about either one of us being his parent. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. I would never want that.
Exactly.
But their father is the fucking devil.
Now, if you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. It's free to do it. Also, subscribe for more content. Hit that notification bell on the way out. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. All right? Shalom.
You ever wonder why, when you turn on mainstream media, you see what you see? Through the atonement of our Messiah, we can go before the throne and petition the Father.
If I had 10,000 tongues, I couldn't tell all that the Lord has done for me.
Thank you, Father. Your blessings, mercy, your grace and love abide forever.
Don't go closer.
Before it all fell apart, you could feel it.
Closer.
We live in a time where entertainment has been fully weaponized.
One of America's most dazzling leading ladies, Laverne Cox.
The openly gay hip-hop star Lil Nas X is holding nothing back in his new video for Montero, Call Me By Your Name. The official YouTube video has more than 88 million views. It's biblical imagery and intense eroticism.
What happens when your image is being controlled by those who hate you? The crafty counsel.
Charlize Theron is soaking up the sun with her daughters. The Oscar-winning actress shared a rare video of herself on vacation with her kids.
Joining their system is suicide.
Williams told the New York Times in 2017, "The characters that mean the most to me are the ones that damn near kill me. It's a sacrifice I've chosen to make."
So his life is a cautionary tale.
Is there mercy for the man who knows only his ambition?
Corporate-sponsored Satanism is on the rise.
They pretend to love you.
We are being changed.